Trade reports are really starting to heat up, specifically over the past few hours regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs, as a new report has dropped highlighting a new Leafs target. So I'm going to break down that report and discuss what a potential trade framework could work according to the report on this episode of Leafs Digest. But before we do, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. About 80% of you who are watching are not subscribed. We are on the road to 7,000 subscribers, and there's a lot of news coming out, so stay tuned for all of that, and thank you for your support. Now, Darius, there's a lot to go over today. A brand new report just dropped from David Pagnotta. The Maple Leafs, Senators, and Flames are believed to have interest in Colton Parayko. Now, this one is interesting. He is a very good player, and rumors that this dropped a couple hours ago, and ever since then, more and more reports and rumors are really starting to heat up regarding this. We wanted to get this video out as soon as possible in case a trade goes down, whether it's today, tomorrow, or before the deadline. But this is a brand new report from David Pagnotta, a fairly reputable reporter here. 3 key teams, of course, the Leafs, the Senators, and the Flames are interested in him, and he would be a perfect fit, which we'll discuss in this video. But Darius, what are your thoughts on this report? It kind of came out of nowhere, and it's seeming to get backed up by a few different reporters here.
Yeah, and it's starting to get me a little excited. I'm not going to lie. I mean, this is a guy I kind of put at the back of my head. Like, I just figured it wasn't going to happen, but just considering everything that's come out in the last couple of days and today, I'm a little bit excited again, because the more people talk about it, the more I'm reminded about how he is an absolute perfect fit and would look fantastic on that first pairing with Morgan Rielly. That would be great. And when you talk about fit, and like we were talking about in our last video and a couple videos ago, and really the whole story of the deadline for the Leafs is term. This is a guy who signed until 2030. All right, so there is term here. The contract is not fantastic, $6.5 million, which is not amazing. So you're gonna have to look at somebody coming out. There's gonna have to be salary coming out, and the odd man out looks to be just by, not because of play or last night in general, right? It just seems to be based on salary. It could be TJ Brodie. And again, he's a left shot defenseman. He's starting to slow down. He's starting to get older. And when you remove his salary, you can definitely make this work. And you can find another left shot defenseman if you're the Leafs. You have a ton of them. So I'm sure you can find another bottom pairing left shot defenseman to fill the void there. So they can definitely make this work. His no movement clause is not terrible until 2028-29, so you can kind of work around that if need be. This would be a risk, but it's a risk that if it works out, it would be pretty fantastic. Again, it's been a theme the whole time. This is not a guy who's going to put up points for you, but he's a great defensive defenseman. Again, 21 points in 61 games so far with the St. Louis Blues this season. But yeah, he's just a great defensive defenseman, great skater, big boy. He can, throw the body in the playoffs, and he has something that a lot of the Leafs roster does not have, and something I've been talking about. It's not about points sometimes. It's not about all this stuff that we talk about. It's not even about him being right shot defenseman. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's been there, he's done it, and the Leafs do not have a lot of guys who've done that on the roster, or even brought in guys over the years that have done that. So it just makes a lot of sense if they can get the money to work. It just really does. Him and Rielly on a first pairing would be awesome. It would be the absolute first pairing on a Leafs team in a long time. I can't even remember.
Yeah, it'd be a very big splash, and there's a few different things we'll go over now. This is from San Turpak. He's saying, this is not a report based on his sources necessarily, but reading between the lines, I would say that it's fair to assume that the Maple Leafs are one of the only teams interested in him at his full contract value, which could very much lower the acquiring price for his services. And obviously that would be, and speculating a bit, TJ Brodie that would be going out to, at least a part of it going out to make the salary work. And from Jay Fresh here, he said he's a very interesting player. He's huge, skates beautifully, defends well, big shot, carries the puck in transition more than anyone, but not a driver of the offense, and the Blues don't have the right partner for him, which is funny because guess who is a defenseman who's a driver for the offense? Morgan Rielly, who would be a perfect fit there. And you're looking at his Jay Fresh Hockey, his WAR stats. He's very good defensively. Like, this is about as perfect of a fit as you could ask if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. The issue, again, is the contract, a $6.5 million cap hit for a long time going forward. That being said, Brad Treliving wouldn't have to worry about finding another, first-line defensive pairing for the next however many years, 4 or 5 years minimum, assuming he plays the way that we know Parayko can play. It makes all the sense in the world to me. You said it, 21 points this season, 27 points last season, 35 points the season before. Like, he's a very good player. He is 30 years old, so he still has a ways to go there. But I'll ask you this, what would this take package-wise? Would this be the first-round pick that you're looking at? Do you think it would be less because of what he's saying here about if we can include Brodie and match the salary? Because there's not many teams that would be able to do that or be willing to do that in the position that the Leafs are in, specifically regarding going maybe even all in this season. This would be kind of a pretty hefty move for them. Very high-risk, high-reward type of play here for Brad Treliving.
Yeah. I don't think it's a first round pick in play either. I think that's why this is so enticing, really, and why it's so exciting, because I think it's a player going back the other way. You have to take,
Yeah.
salary off the books. It's going to be a skillful player. It's looking like Brodie again, just speculation, like you said, but it looks like that. I don't think the first round pick is in play. It could be like a fourth round pick, could be like a prospect. Everyone's throwing Abruzzesi's name out there all the time, so why don't we just throw him in there
May as
again,
well. I
right?
did it earlier.
Could be, yeah, like it could be him. It could be another B prospect, right? I just don't think the first round pick is even in play for this. That's why this is so, like I said, like it's so enticing, and it's getting me a little bit excited, because if they can make the salary work, which they absolutely can. I'm just worried about going forward, right? Like this is a bit of a risk, but again, this we've seen Parayko play with Riley before in the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. They were a
Yes.
defense pairing in on Team North America. We've seen them work together, and they were very good together. He is, like you said, could be if they take the risk, a perfect defense partner for Morgan Riley, which he has not had in his entire, I guess, 10 years now of being a Maple Leaf. And he's a right shot defenseman. It would literally be perfect. It would set them up, and then you just figure out the rest of the lines the rest of the way, which are almost figured out anyway. Maybe they may, acquire one more guy. And if they acquire Parayko, I'm not even sure if they have to acquire another guy on defense. So it's going to be really interesting to look at. People are getting riled up on Twitter right now, and it's getting me a little bit excited, but I don't know. They're still looking at some other options. And again, the salary is just, going forward, it hurts.
Yeah, this is the hottest name at this very moment. The reports are starting to heat up, and it all started with the David Painat, and we didn't really consider him. I haven't at least considered him for a while, but now that it's making sense, if the Blues are willing to trade him, he is their assistant captain. But I mean, I think it makes sense from the Blues' perspective as well. The thing is, I mean, the cap hit is what really lowers his value. If this wasn't such a long contract until 2030 at 6.5, he would probably net a first-round pick, depending on how many years, or if it was on a more team-friendly deal. But his market is very limited. I don't know how many other teams would be willing to trade. And I feel like for the Leafs, his value is even more augmented because they have such an offensive-minded, or at least a very skilled, not that Morgan Riley's bad defense, but a very skilled defensive first liner there in Morgan Riley. Like, it makes even more sense for them. So would they be willing to maybe pay a bit more, or will the Blues say, hey, if you're going to make this trade, I'm going to ask for you to give us a little bit more? I don't think the first-round pick is in play because of the contract, especially because you have to give up a guy like TJ Brodie, who hasn't been great this season. But, I mean, Parayko is purely defense. His offense is not great. I mean, he's still putting up points, but when you look at the advanced stats, it's not as good as it could be. But Darius, I don't know. This is exciting. I wouldn't be surprised if a deal gets done between the two sides based on what we're hearing on Twitter here and things like that. But I don't know. Again, the complication is the cap hit, and that's what might ultimately be when we come and make our video Saturday and the Leafs didn't make this trade. That might be what ultimately it comes down to, is just not being able to at least find. I mean, the matching salary is there. I just don't know if the Leafs and Brad Living are willing to make that big of a risk, just because 2030 at 6.5 is a lot to pay for a defenseman who is very good. I don't know if he's that good.
Yeah, it's the term and the number, right? That's what it is that would hold them back. Otherwise, it makes perfect sense on every other front. And I mean, the salary coming off too, like Brodie, I'm sure you could find $1 million somewhere, right? Or give or take $1 million in there that to offload off the Leafs roster to make this work, right? If you were sending Brodie the other way, and I'll pose it to the viewers now too. Comment what you think. Like, would you give up Brodie for this? In my eyes, like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but yes, like, it just makes sense. You got to fill your need, right? It makes perfect sense. But again, it's just the term, like 2030. If he doesn't work out, he could work out this year, right? And then maybe next year he's pretty good too. But then after that, you're stuck with him, right?
Yep.
And that could be a problem. And as you get towards, Matthews and those guys turning 30, 31, like, do you want to be stuck with that? But I don't even know if you could look at that. I think you have to look at this season, next season, and the season after. And Parayko would be on your team for that. Brodie is regressing a little bit.
33
Like I
years
said,
old, I believe.
yeah, like he's getting up there, and we've seen it this year. Like him and Liljegren, they were great. What, 2 weeks ago? Not great last night, right? And not great the last couple of games. So they have to fill a need. And like I said, the biggest part of this that people put almost no stock into, which is shocking, he's won a Stanley Cup. He knows what it takes. He's been there, and the Leafs don't have that. They need more of that. They need more guys who are signed long term to play for them, not just rentals like Ryan O'Reilly who came in. who've won the Stanley Cup to just come in and know what it takes to win, and he's done that.
I'm all in. You've convinced me. I mean, I was already convinced anyway, but I think it's going to be interesting. And the other two teams there, I feel like the Leafs are in a better position. I mean, the Flames are having a pretty rough. They're kind of sellers, but I guess they could be trying to get their Chris Tanev, Noah Hanifin replacement back if they end up trading, assuming they trade Noah Hanifin there. And then the Senators, the Senators are the Senators. I'm not going to get into that, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of this. Tons of stuff is dropping. We're going to try to have you covered for all of it. It's just a lot right now, and I think this guy might be the best possible target that's realistic for the Leafs. So let us know in the comments down below what's the max you would give up for him, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.